Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. Happy New Year, folks. It's 2023 and we got a lot to talk about. First, before we get into the conversation today, I want to talk about how will you make a difference in 2023. This is not just about a New Year's resolution, a New Year's recommitment. It's all about how will you make a difference in 2023. I'm going to share more of what I have to say about this. I'm going to get my culture crew, Iman Heath and Taylor Ferguson, to be a part of this, and there's so much more. Plus, let's talk about how there is a new definition coming from the U.S. Census Bureau about what is urban. We're going to have that conversation. Plus, we got to get an update about Damar, the football player, Damar, who had a cardiac arrest while on the field yesterday for the Monday Night Football. We check in with our guy, Scotty, and so much more. So stay with us. We got a lot to cover on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. And Happy New Year. Happy New Year. There we go. Happy New Year. It is officially 2023. We're in the third day of the new year. And I have to say, folks, if you just had one of those weekends or you just had that time off, and you just needed to I'm telling you, I'm right there with you. 2023, I'm expecting some big things to happen this year. So by the grace of the God. So it's just a lot that we're going to cover. So which is why I wanted to have a different approach to starting today's show off. I didn't want to just jump into talking about what some of the topical issues and all of that good stuff. I mean, that stuff is going to be there. But I did want to just kind of start the show having a moment where we can talk about what we're expecting in the new year, especially at this time where, all this year, all of last year of 2022, since we started back in February the 1st, folks, and we're fastly approaching that 1 year mark soon. But all of this year, we have been covering a host of topics. I mean, a number of topics, great conversations. Of course, we've had some dope ass guests. But one of the big things that I want to do this year, particularly on this show, is take time for us to talk about things that are not quote unquote the topics, things that really affect the heart, the mind, and the spirit of all of us, right? Because what I'm finding within myself and then having conversations with other people is that people still need to hear something that is going to cultivate them, that's going to water their soul, something that's going to lift their spirits, right? Stuff that is beyond the bills, beyond the social issues and all of that stuff. It's like people really want to feel like, that they have an understanding of what's going on. That they're secure in who they are, and that they want to feel like, my humanity still matters. And so I wanted to start the show off today asking that question. How will you make a difference in 2023, right? How will you take your time to help someone else or to add to a cause, right? And it's not just about political stuff. It's not just about social stuff. I mean, to really, really reflect and think on that. And this is why I think, for the last show that we did last year when we closed out, we talked about, we hope, and this is something that I'm personally going to work on, is how I can be a peacemaker. How do we establish peace in a world where there's full of warfare and chaos and uncertainty? It's choosing peace right now is a revolutionary act. Choosing peace right now is a revolutionary act because we are in a space of war, because we are in a space of uncertainty, because there's so much discord, there's so much chaos, there's so much internal and external madness. Choosing peace is revolutionary, right? And this goes beyond just personal peace. I'm talking about an active peacemaking effort where we are doing our part to create a force where peace is established wherever we are, whether it's at home, in the community, at the workplace, but we become a force of good, a force of peace that can be established wherever we are, so that not just we can benefit from it ourselves individually, but more importantly, that anyone that's in that space that we're in will be able to gain from this peace. It's a revolutionary act. And so I hope that as we have this conversation today, I want you to think about, well, how will I make a difference in 2023? And that's the guiding question. For me, it's being a peacemaker. For me, it's making sure that any space that I'm in, any place that I go, any person that I talk to, I'm going to bring them some level of peace, right? Because I don't want to add to anybody's disturbance, whether it's the disturbance of their mind, their body, their spirit. I don't want to be a burden on anyone. I want you to feel good when you tune into the culture here on the Black Star Network. You're going to say, oh man, we're going to talk about some heavy things, but we're going to talk about it in such a way that it still brings some peace to me, that it's going to bring some calm to who I am, that it's going to empower me and encourage me to be a certain way. That's where I want to be. I want to be that person. I want to be used for that purpose. And so I want you to join me in this conversation. Again, this is not, I don't want to jump into topics just yet. I want us to start from a place of peace, start from a place of how will we make a difference in 2023. I want to bring in my culture crew. My culture crew today, Taylor Ferguson, 19 years old sister that's doing some dynamic work in the city of Philadelphia as an activist. And she is making sure that she's doing her part. Taylor, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us in the conversation. How you feeling this afternoon?
I'm good. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. All right, Taylor. So that was, this is something that's on my spirit today that I felt like, you know what, we need to take time for. It's the first day of the new year. How can we, kind of recalibrate so that way we don't get into a place where we just jump. We always into something. Like, I love pause and reflect moments, Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is the perfect time for us to have a pause and reflect moment. Talk to me. How will you make a difference in 2023? You're already doing some great things, but how do you plan to make more of a greater difference and make a greater impact?
So this year, I already started looking into helping with the youth. I met up with a couple of my old teachers from when I was still in elementary school, and they're trying to do a lot of youth encouraging things so that they move from, doing gun violence and being out in the streets and everything to doing, something more productive. We already have like sports teams and things like that, but not everybody's into sports, and you need to find something for all of them. So I'm definitely in the mix, working up, cooking up something real good for the little kids, because I want to see a change in Philly for sure. Everywhere, but right. Philly first.
That's what's up. So you're working with the next generation, working with young people. And I've been doing that work for years, Taylor. I've been doing that work for years in Baltimore, right? And, in different parts of the country. That's not an easy job, and it requires a lot of you. It requires, patience. It requires for you to have the vision and all of those things. So how do you plan to kind of keep yourself in a place of stability where you're able to put out and then at the same time still receive what you need to feed your mind, your heart, your spirit going into 2023?
Well, I've always been somebody who, I like to care for other people first. I've always put other people first. And I feel like since I already have that energy with my family or my friends or just people who are close to me, I feel like I might as well put it towards something that's a lot more important. So I feel like both me and that, that child will be nourished at the end of the day. It's basically just a mutual, I guess, nourishment, because we're both getting what we need. And I'll feel more, I don't know, I'll just feel more accomplished at the fact that I did something that's good and it's going to be worth it in the end. Even though it may not seem like it's, worth anything now, I know that for anything, if my head is like, this is going to be worth something at one point, I still put my foot in it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, I want to go to, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want us to have this conversation with you, our online culture crew, because we need to just take a moment to think about what impact we want to make in 2023. So I'm asking a question. It's a brand new year. How will you make a difference in 2023? I'm going to establish peace. I'm going to be, kind of commit myself to being a peacemaker, not the peacemaker, but I'm one of many peacemakers in this country. And I want to hear what you have to say. You heard what Taylor had to say, how she's working with the next generation, how she's going to be a motivation and inspiration for them, while at the same time getting what she needs from the process. We don't want Taylor to burn out. So we're going to have this conversation, and I want to hear from you. Make sure you post your comments in the chat as we're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Black Star Network, and join us in the conversation. And take a quick moment, because we're going to take a pause. When we come forward, we're going to continue the conversation right here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Happy New Year.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome to the show. We have been just starting off the show on a different note. I wanted to start the show off today, just giving us like a pause and reflect moment as we start 2023. We're in the third day of the new year. A lot of things are already kicking off, and we're going to talk about those things in a moment. But first, it's just felt like I just felt like we cannot start a show on the new year without us having a very, very important conversation about how we're going to move forward in this year. Some of us, well, I will say, I'm sure a lot of us, let me just keep it real. I think a lot of us are still, you have emotional ties to people and circumstances back in 2022. Now, I know that it's a changing of the calendar doesn't mean you're going to become a whole new person. I get that. But I think that one of the benefits of us having a moment to celebrate the changing of the calendar is the fact that we can make an intentional and conscious decision to say, I'm going to not allow this person or this circumstance or this situation to go into another year of my life. I'm going to not allow that to happen, right? To make it, because it's so upfront that we are celebrating, we celebrated the transition into a new year. So just being very intentional about what you want to see, as we are all have been blessed to see the transition. I got my culture crew member, Taylor Ferguson, on joining me in the conversation. Let's bring Taylor back into the frame. And I want to hear from you folks. Make sure you join us, post your comments in the chat, and let's continue to have a conversation. How will you make a difference in 2023? All right, people started checking in, Taylor.
I'm ready.
People, are you ready? Because I'm
ready.
You know, I'm all our culture crew. You know, you come from that.
Yep. I'm ready to see what y'all got to say.
All right. So let me bring up my sister, who has been, like, from the very beginning, she's been riding with us. Lana will put, she brings so much passion to the chat that we have to acknowledge it and just, I just love it. I love her energy. Lana, you fired up today. You fired up. All right, let's hear what you got to say, Lana. You said, look, I think I have to be purposeful about saving my family. I think it's hard for us to see the folks directly in the community as family. We lost that when we moved away. It's time to rebuild the family. I love that. Lana, you also said 2023 is our year for solutions. Eyes are opened. Let's become that force.
Yep.
All right, so Lana talked about family and solutions. I love it.
Yep.
Absolutely love it. All right, Taylor, what's your take on Lana, on what she got to say?
That was the greatest, like, that was just perfect. That was better than both of our solutions.
Maybe yours, not mine.
Excuse me. Excuse me. I was trying to be generous, adding
You're right. Lana just building. We're building right now. So this is our, it's just adding on to it, You're doing the work you're doing. I'm doing the work. So we're just building. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Taylor.
No, I definitely agree. We definitely have become very distant towards each other, and we definitely need to start seeing each other as family more than burdens and, this isn't my problem, so I don't care about it. It needs to be more of, it's your problem, but how can we fix it?
Right. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Conscious Thought, you checked in and said, look, to answer your question, how will you make a difference this year? You said, I will be more vocal and communicative and engaging with those in positions of power, control, authority relative to issues dear to me.
That's good. I love it.
I love it, Conscious Thought. I love that recommitment.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why I love Conscious Thought's tape. Because one, he already knows, like, I need to say more. And I think the best place that anyone can start the new year is to recognize, I don't like to say weaknesses, because that sometimes will throw us off in our heads, Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
But we all got strengths and we all got shortcomings.
Okay. I like that word. Now I'm going to start using that. 2023. Right? There we go.
We got shortcomings, right, which can be overcome. I mean, we falling short right now. That doesn't mean we stay there. So to Conscious Thought's point, saying, look, I need to be more vocal. I need to communicate. I need to talk to people in positions of power. That's a big step. That is a big step, especially as we all should be working toward becoming active citizens, not just passive citizens, but active citizens. Because passive citizens is what we are seeing right now in this country. We just kind of go along to get along. Mm-hmm. Active citizenry requires us to say, okay, you hear about an issue, you take a stand on the issue. If that stand is not in alignment with where leadership is taking us, then you should go out and say something. Make your voice known, and try to see how you can bridge the gap between leadership and you and your community and your family.
Yeah.
And how that can happen. So you're becoming an active citizen. And I think in this country, Taylor, and from the time that we're small babies all the way up until grown adults, we are not taught to become active citizens. We have been taught and conditioned to always put our hope that the government knows the way. The government, that somebody else, it may not be government, just in general. We always been told, just go to an authority figure, lay your burden down in front of them and they will fix your burden. Yep, we are beyond that point now. We are no longer at that place in this country anymore. What's your take?
I think that's 100% true. I feel like there's no reason that I should have to wait for somebody to fix my problems when I can just do it myself. If there's an issue or if there's something that I just cannot stand for, I'm not going to, stay silent. I'm not going to wait for somebody else to say something. I'm going to say something. And if people, join in, and that's great. But if people don't, that's great too, because I still said what I need to say. So conscious thought, that's a very sturdy take.
I like that. I actually like that. All right, McCole, they checking in. All right, McCole, you said as individuals, we need to be healed, be whole, and be well. And then we can have a positive, substantial impact on our communities. Come on. Mm-hmm. Come on. I love it. I love it. I love it. And McCall, I know you will agree with me on this one when I say you don't have to stop movement in the process of being healed. If you take your time, say you're trying to recover from a traumatic situation, you still move forward. You still put one foot in front of the other, Taylor. You know what I mean? And because I think a lot of us, right, we get paralyzed. We shut down when you go up against a traumatic situation. And guess what? That's natural. You just feel like, oh my gosh, the wall is coming in on me. The sky is falling. The world hates me. But when you are in the process of healing, you still should move forward.
Yep, definitely.
That forward motion is needed. So I love that. McCall, I appreciate you, sis, for checking in. Corinna, my sister, you said no more setbacks. I'll be back. I love it. I'll be back in the classroom as a student, and I'm asking my culture crew to hold me accountable. Come on, family. This is what I'm talking about.
Study them books up. Yep.
Come on. This is what I'm talking about, Corinna. Then you calling on us as to hold you accountable.
Yep, I will. I won't forget.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And Corinna, I'm glad that you talking about going back in the classroom, because you're making a big difference when we do that. That if you know you have a skill, here's what I would say, Taylor, and you can disagree or agree with me. When you know you have a skill and you still got a little gas in the tank for taking that skill and using it, right? Like whether it's teaching or any other profession, and you go back into it, you should be supported, you should be applauded, and you should be given every opportunity to make the difference that you want to make.
Oh, for sure.
I love it. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I appreciate you, Corinna, for saying that. All right, let's go to my sister, Karen. Karen out here in LA with me, Taylor. Karen said, Farajii, as you know, don't be shaking your head. Farajii, as you know, I am active in local government and spaces which influence change. I will continue to expand in those spaces. There it is. There it is. And Karen, I know for sure, sis, that without a shadow of doubt, that you've been doing this for a while, that each year that you submit yourself to this cause of doing local government work, making sure that our people are politically engaged and whatnot, that you actually are coming up with new ideas on how to do the work better. So sometimes you don't have to just jump off the ship and get into a new boat. You can just keep on the pace and in the pursuit that you're going into, and just figuring out, how can I make this situation, how can I make this pursuit better? How can I be more innovative? If you're doing political engagement, political awareness work, how can I get more people engaged beyond just knocking on doors, making phone calls, only seeing the people when it's campaign time? How can we do that? How can we make sure that the people understand that the issues are relevant to their personal life, to their family life, to their community life? Like, how can I do what I do and make it better? And that's a great, great commitment to make, because a lot of times we want to start something new. It's easier to get something better than it is to sometimes to start something new. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if you got a skill, you already in a certain track, please. It's not like all of a sudden I'm doing media for all these years and to be like, you know what? Bump that. I'm going to be a chef. Then I got to start from the bottom. I got to start that process. I like cooking, but at the end of the day, I'm much more proficient in this media space because of the time I spent and the passion I have for this work. So, I love that, Karen. I appreciate that. All right, let me get this, my brother Damon, really quickly, and then before we shut it down. Damon, you said, I am continuing to grow my ministry, Blessed Ministries, spreading the gospel and seeing people accept God in their life will bring positive energy in all areas of our lives and communities. Amen.
That's great.
Amen.
That is really good.
There it is right there. There it is right there. Yep, Damon, I hope and pray that your ministry continue to grow, that you continue to have a pure heart to do it. And, in 2023, it's not just about expansion. It's not just about quantity. It's about quality. But, Damon, I know you know that. I'd rather have a small church of committed believers than a large church full of half-committed. We look at the size of the church. Y'all remember that period in mega churches and everything? Like, oh, this person got a mega church. You got thousands and thousands. But how many people are ready? Like, if at the drop of a hat, if that pastor or that minister were to say, hey, we're going out into the streets and we're going to do something for the homeless, out of those thousands that are being taught to each and every Sunday, how many have actually showed up? You got to see, it's not about quantity, it's about quality.
Yep.
And that's the space that we're in right now. I'm all about quality right now. 2023 is about, doing quality work, making genuine connections, building with people, and of course, being a peacemaker wherever I am. That's where I'm at right now. Like if I'm not doing something that's going to fundamentally change who you are, I don't want to do it. That's where we're going to be at, right, Taylor?
That's where we at.
That's where we're going to be at.
We started that 3 days ago.
Right. All right, look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about how the U.S. Census Bureau has released a new statement just last week saying that they are officially going to redefine the word urban. Now, for those who don't know, urban has often means black, but now the census has said it's going to redefine the term and the impact that it will have on cities and towns and millions of Americans across this country. Stay with us. That conversation is up next on The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. All right, I wanted to have a conversation about a major modification that the United States Census Bureau has done. And this is around what it means to say urban. Yes, that word, URBAN. Here's what the Census Bureau has put out last week as we go into the new year, and how this slight modification can make a big difference for millions of Americans. Take a look at this. Take a look at this, folks. Here's what the census put out. They have said that the Census Bureau this year made the biggest modification in decades to the definition of an, quote, urban area. The Bureau adjusts the definition every decade after a census to address any changes or needs of policymakers and researchers. The Bureau says it is done for statistical purposes, and it has no control over how government agencies use the definitions to distribute funding. Now, more than 1,100 cities, towns, and villages in the U.S. lost their status as urban areas on Thursday, as the United States Census Bureau released a new list of places considered urban based on revised criteria. Now, around 4.2 million residents living in 1,140 small towns, hamlets, towns, and villages that lost their urban designation were bumped into the rural category. The new criteria raised the population threshold from 2,500 to 5,000 people, and housing units were added to the definition. All right, here we go, folks. This is the word around urban. Let me bring in Culture Crew member Taylor Ferguson as we have this discussion. Taylor, this is pretty interesting and very unique, but I feel like this may affect Black folks more than ever than any other groups of people, because a lot of times the term urban is often used to describe what they call inner city, or what some people would say, just speak to Black people. What's your take on this?
I feel like it can be a good and bad thing, especially, well, for us in, specifics, because it gives us a different definition of, who we are. And instead of being considered urban, we can flip that and turn it into something else. It can also be bad, just because of the attachment. But I mean, I'm more concerned about the good thing to this. So
yeah, I'm more concerned about it as well. And I think that by it making this is millions of dollars. Now, for folks who aren't familiar with how the census works, that it just does a count. And when it does the count, then of course local governments and state governments use that information to determine how certain communities or certain areas of any jurisdiction is allocated certain funding and other resources to help. And so that's why the whole conversation about gerrymandering, that's the big one. That's one of the big hot topic or hot button words. Gerrymandering was when you redraw the district lines in any state. So you're in Pennsylvania, when they gerrymandered those districts, Taylor, it could either help or hinder a community from getting extra money, certain things built like schools and hospitals. Even on the business side, some businesses might say, well, if we build a supermarket in one area, we may not get the type of tax breaks and incentives we need. So we're going to take our project to another area where we can gain just as much as the community. So there's a lot that can be used just with this data. But that's the Census Bureau is counting. The Census Bureau is trying to take a mark of who's in these neighborhoods. And I thought that this was pretty interesting for us to talk about, because it affects people's lives. They said that millions of people are going to be affected by this. And I'm wondering, Taylor, as we look at this, this could potentially be another hit for Black communities in terms of political representation, not just money, but I'm thinking more of political representation more than anything, right?
Yeah.
And we've had on this show a number of Black political leaders who run big cities and small towns. So it's like, what happens to those folks as well?
That's definitely a concern. You definitely, especially with the fact that if they're already, I don't want to say gentrifying, but they're already gentrifying a lot of urban communities and things like that. So imagine if they get switched from, somewhere kind of, I don't want to say low profile, but if it's somewhere that used to be very low profile, it'll become more high profile. So it'll be more people getting pushed out and new people getting pushed in, and just the whole, it's just going to be a lot. Like, it's going to be very difficult for the people who already live there.
Absolutely. This is the concern. Here are a couple of things that you're talking about, the type of federal funding that's going to affect how this designation impacts these cities and towns. You're talking about funding for transportation, housing, healthcare, education, and agriculture. I mean, those are the places that we're looking at. And according to a bureau chief in Montana, check this out here, Taylor. The bureau chief in Montana, she made the point that let me make sure I'm pulling this up. She said that let me get this really quickly, and then we're going to get to some of our. She said her name is Mary Craggle. She said the whole thing about urban and rural is all about money. Places that qualify as urban are eligible for transportation dollars that rural areas aren't. And then rural areas are eligible for dollars that urban areas are not. Yes. It's all about the money.
Always about the money.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking a look at some of the big picture things around this, there were 2,646 urban areas in the mainland U.S., Puerto Rico, U.S. islands on the new list that was released last week. Among them were 36 new urban areas that were rural a decade ago. Now, according to a demographer, who is a gentleman by the name of Kenneth Johnson, they reported in this that this change in definition is a big deal and a substantial change from the Census Bureau's long-standing procedures. It has significant implications both for policy and for researchers. I'm hearing a certain level of disenfranchisement that could happen. I'm not saying it will happen, folks. I'm just simply saying it could happen because of this change. And this is the thing, and you know, we got a few moments and we're going to take another pause, but this is the thing about understanding the trickle-down effect of politics and policy, that something like this that may be, Taylor, off of everybody's radar. Nobody's checking for the census. Nobody said, oh, what the census put out today, right? The census, we just going through for our lives, and it's fine. But this is the type of thing that, and I know from the Culture Crew, y'all, some of y'all are researchers, you love this stuff, but this is the type of thing that we actually should be advocating for. Pressing, and Conscious thought you talking about being more vocal to the decision makers. This is the type of thing you're vocal to your decision makers about.
Yep.
Because it affects at least 10 years of life in a given area. At least 10 years. So if you just bought a house, if you just moved to an area, if your children are going to school in a certain space, that's, you mean to tell me, like I said, they renew this, or they take a review this every 10 years or so. You're talking about 10 years of life that is affected by this one designation, this one modification. 10 years of life.
A shame.
So it just goes to show you, I don't want us to get into a space where we're hustling backwards, where we're asking for stuff that's not really as substantial as, hey, let me ask you, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor, let me ask you, Mr. Councilman, Madam Councilwoman, where do you stand on this urban designation? Will that affect where I am, my city, my town? How will it affect? And they will be blown away, because I bet you some of them may know and some of them may not know, Taylor.
Or they didn't think you knew.
Or they didn't think that you knew. Right. So it says it will be huge. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's get some thoughts from our online culture crew. I want to hear from you folks. What do you make of the Census Bureau redefining the term urban, affecting over 4 million people in this country? Thousands of towns and cities have lost that designation. How do you foresee this situation playing out? Join me in the conversation and stay tuned. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Folks, we have been talking about the big modification coming out of the U.S. Census Bureau, where the U.S. Census has officially redefined what it means to be urban, for city, town, rural areas to be urban. This is a major, major modification as demographers and other folks are taking a look at this and saying, how will this impact funding and how will this make a political statement in cities and towns across the country? Let me just break down some numbers, and then we're going to go to your comments and continue our conversation with Culture Crew member Taylor Ferguson. Now, check this out, folks. Here's Taylor. I want to bring you into this because I want to kind of get your take on this. Under the old criteria, an urbanized area needed to have at least 50,000 residents. An urban cluster was defined as having at least 2,500 people, a threshold that had been around since 1910. Under this definition, almost 81% of the U.S. was urban and 19% was rural over the past decade. Under the new definition, hammered out after the 2020 census, the minimum population required for an area to be considered urban doubled to 5,000 people. Originally, the Census Bureau proposed raising the threshold to 10,000 people, but pulled back amid opposition. The new criteria for urban areas shift the urban-rural ratio slightly to 79.6% and 20.4% respectively for rural areas. So now America is about 77, still about 80%, 79.6% urban, 20% rural in this country.
Wow.
Now, I just want us to keep this in mind as we're having a conversation, because we're talking about funding and we're talking about political representation, political power. So understanding this. So the rules are probably getting a little beefier. The major cities are closing out. And with the way things are moving, there's already, we saw in 2020 as a result of COVID, there was a massive shift of population from your big cities to southern areas, to places some like the big cities, to southern states like Texas and Georgia and all of those places down in that part of the country. There was a big shift. People found that there were more opportunity. You could get more bang for your buck with land ownership and housing and all of those things. So people moved as a result of COVID. and wanting to get into a better place. So cities across this country, and I'm talking about big cities, whether you're talking about Philly or Baltimore, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, they are on a decline. I just read as well that in the state of California has actually took a hit of losing 100,000 people over the past year because of a number of issues, but mostly because of cost of living and housing. So big cities are going to take a hit. Black folks, I think, in some ways are going to take a hit. And we need to figure out how to make sure that this part of the discussion about designation, one simple change, and I can't emphasize this enough, Taylor, one simple change can create a ripple effect. It's like a small pebble thrown into the pond. One small pebble, one slight modification can create a ripple effect on how people or how communities get money and how we're going to be represented in government. One simple change. Huge. Crazy. That's it. And see, helping people to connect the dots. And I know y'all, my online culture crew, y'all know how to connect the dots. How do we connect the dots on all of it? Let's go to them right now because folks are checking in. Let me hear from who we got. Ming Lee. I think Ming, you posted something. Yep, I say you said they did that to my old neighborhood. I grew up in Brooklyn on Hancock Street. I went to my old block. It was all white people outside. I felt like I was lost. This is bigger than just gentrification, though.
Yep.
So you went to Brooklyn, right? Imagine, Ming, that Brooklyn starts getting chopped up, and you got a rural part of Brooklyn. I mean, just imagine, you know what I'm saying? Because of, or this part is more rural than urban. Can you imagine that?
That doesn't
like
even
you
make
go
sense.
to New York City, or you go to New York State, and of course, New York State has some rural areas, but you know what I mean? They start chopping it up, and I'm just throwing it out there. But you're right, changes. Nisa, 1971. You said it's two things with the label urban in reference to our communities. Ask yourself, who benefits and what is the goal? We have to understand where the money is going to understand the answer. I love those two questions, Nisa. Who benefits and what is the goal? Now, Taylor, we've been in America for over 450 years.
Yep.
Who benefits and what is the goal?
I mean, the easy answer is, the palm colored people.
White people, the powers that be.
Yeah, they usually are the ones.
They usually are the ones. But let's take it in, because now we're in 2023. You can't just make a general statement that all white people.
Okay.
We do, and I'm saying this for just across the board, because we have to be very specific about who the targets are in this time.
Okay.
And I think that's the big thing about where we are. You got people in leadership. You got black folks in leadership.
You do. You do.
Black folks in leadership who are ready to lock them up and throw away the key on a lot of black folks, right? So for my understanding, for just in terms of me growing and developing, I'm going to be very specific, saying you got people in power, whether they're black or white, late Asian or Latino, who don't see the benefit of helping the American citizen.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And I see that. I see that every day. I'm reading about it. We hear about it. We see that. So who benefits? It could benefit some crazy ass black politician.
It could.
Right? Who has lost him or herself and only sees black folks as a stepping stone for their personal gain and whatnot. So we can't always assume that it's white people. We can't always assume that it's white people. I think that's a great question, though. And what is the goal? What is the goal? What do you think the goal would be?
I think it would just be for financial gain for the higher ups.
Yeah. And guess what? Here's my thing, Taylor. We already know this.
Yes.
This ain't groundbreaking stuff. And I'm glad that Nisa, you brought it out there, put it out there, because some people say, well, see, boom, like this is some new stuff. Like, boom, people are plotting against Black folks. We know this. People have conspired against us for years.
Mm-hmm.
Question. Here's the third question, Nisa. What are we going to do about it?
That's the best question.
Because I'm clear. I know that. Mm-hmm. There's a double standard. There's a conspiracy. There's always been. I already know all of that. At this point, how do you respond to those in power or who use this information to try to disempower us? How do you disrupt their goals?
Yep.
That's where I'm at. Like, I already know that. When I wake up in the morning and walk out the door, I already know there's a conspiracy to get me off the planet Earth. I already know that. That's not news to me now. That's not groundbreaking. That's not being a revolutionary. That's just being Black in America.
This is the time to be vocal. This is the time to be vocal.
So at this point, I'm looking at how do we respond? What do we do? All right. So that's a great question. Let me get one more. Sharon Brooks, you say we have to remember that in addition to voting, you must fill out census for funding to your city and government as far as infrastructure and jobs. It's bigger. A closed mouth does not get fed. Fact.
Yep.
I love that, Sharon. You're right. I tell people to go for the census. They make, man, you telling people to go for the census? Yes. Like what? Black folks always act like we don't want to be recognized and known for nothing. I don't want them to have all my information.
We do.
Bruh, as soon as you're born in this country, they got all of your information.
Yep.
They got a blood type. They got your social security number. Like, come on, man. Look, I get it, but I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't want them to know that where I live.
They quick to post it on social media, though. Don't forget that. They quick to post it on social media. When it comes to census or voting, I'm not doing that.
I want them to know that you know, bruh, it's not that deep. When the census people come to your house, that is not ICE. You know, no, I'm serious, and I'm serious. The last census we did in 2020, I remember being on the radio in Baltimore, and people were like, "Man, I don't let them people up in my house, bro." Nobody said you had to let them in your house. First, they like, "Man, I don't know what they counting." They're counting the people in your home, sir. It's not ICE. They're not going to take your babies. These are just people who work extra time just to count. Mm-hmm. Like, and we taking it, and I get it, because we have been victimized from government institutions for so many years that everybody is going to catch some smoke and heat from it. Yeah. I get it. But in this case, they're counting because we need the funds, we need the resources, we need the help in our communities. But here's the thing, folks, as we wrap up. This thing has to be a part of the larger conversations for the next election cycle. Even for the presidential cycle coming up in 2024, question has to be, how will this census, and in your state, ask the question to mayors. Like states across this country are now have inaugurated their new state leadership. We got new congressional people now. Ask your people in your state, your representatives, heard that the census changed the modification for urban. How will that impact my community? How will it impact marginalized, disenfranchised communities like Black and Brown and other folks? How will it impact? Because that's the real question.
Yep.
All right. We got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about the unfortunate incident of Damar Hamlin, how this football player had gone into cardiac arrest while on the field. We're going to check in with sports contributor Scotty, host of Off Script TV, to give us the latest developments in this unfortunate case as we talk about Damar Hamlin and the cost of football. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in, and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. Yesterday was a very, very scary moment, but folks are still keeping their hopes high as many fans tuned into Monday Night Football to watch the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals play. However, during that play, Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin, 24 years old, he suffered a cardiac arrest while getting up off the field after being tackled. Now, he was lying on the field for 10 minutes as CPR was administered. Medics came running on the field, and the game was suspended. And as a result of him being in the critical and serious condition that he found that he was in, the game was eventually canceled. And the NFL just put out earlier today that there will not be any type of rematch or another game being played this week between the Bills and the Bengals, and that something new will be coming down from the NFL. Now, that's on the game side. But on the other side of this is, of course, the life of Damar Hamlin, as he is still in critical condition. He collapsed. His heartbeat was restored when he was on the field, and he was taken to a Cincinnati hospital where he remains in critical condition. We wanted to check in with sports contributor Scotty, host of Off Script TV, to give us some of the latest developments, not just about this, but around the conversation about the cost of football. And there was even some conversation, Scotty, that people thought that there was still some people who said that the game should have gone forward. And then there's some folks on the other side who say the NFL did the right thing and canceled the game altogether. Let's bring Scotty in from Off Script TV. Scotty, good to hear from you, brother. How are you?
What's up, man? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
Yeah, what's going on?
Man, this was hard to watch, bro.
It was. And the crazy thing is I was doing a live show at the same time the game was going on, and people were, so everybody we're all tuning into the game, and we saw what happened, and it was just crazy. We started talking about it and stuff like that. But I feel for that young man. I really do, man. I really do, because everybody knows football. There's a downside to football, and this is what all the pundits and the experts try to get people to go away from the sport, is because these are the likelihoods of a collision sport. You know what I'm saying? It's just the nature of the beast.
So he suffered a cardiac arrest. And I was looking, Scotty, and I was trying to get a sense of, is this regarding the hit, or is this something that was because of some other condition he may have had prior to the game?
If I'm being honest, if we're being real, the hit wasn't as bad as when somebody came on my channel and told me that it happened. I thought he got the impact of
right.
I didn't know he delivered the hit, and based off the delivery of the hit, it didn't seem like I've seen worse in football. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man, please.
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So it could have been a combination of, you know what I'm saying, just the wrong movement, the wrong place at the wrong time, or maybe a previous medical condition. But the most gruesome part is how he stands up, and then you just see his body go limp. And that's what really, I was like, oh, this isn't good. Because even when people get a concussion, they wobble, they stumble, you know what I'm saying? And they kind of get themselves together. But I mean, he just completely went limp, and I really felt bad at that point. I was like, yeah, that's not looking too good.
So he's in critical condition. What are your sources telling you right now? Like, I mean, I've heard that he's in critical condition, that he's on some form of life support.
Yeah. I've heard the same thing. I got a couple of people that actually work for the NFL, and they said that it's kind of hush-hush. They're trying to keep it as close to the vest as possible.
Yeah.
But they could see them probably putting him in a self-induced coma, just to kind of let his body kind of recover and things like that. But, yeah, he's still in critical condition and has been in the intensive care unit for the past 24 hours.
So the conversation about how the NFL should handle this, do you think they made the right decision in canceling the game?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, we get on the NFL a lot for all the wrong stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like the domestic violence, of the penalties and implementation of fines and suspensions and things like
and race issues.
And race issues as one of the big ones. But they handled this as best that anything they could. And just because listen, man, you got grown men crying on the field, and then you tell them to go play a game when they're thinking about their friend or their, in football, they call each other brothers. You think about your brother on his deathbed, pretty much trying to survive. I mean, I've seen somebody go through CPR. That is a traumatizing experience, because you're just asking, are they okay, the whole time that you see them going, doing the CPR, getting them stable you just like, are they going to be okay? How can you go back to playing a game after that? You know what I'm saying? How is a game that important? You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, this is a game that these men are playing, even though they get paid millions. It's at the end of it's a game. You know what I'm saying? And nothing's more important than somebody's life.
No, man. I mean, I agree. I just wanted to get your take and go on record with that, because I mean, some people really did felt like, maybe because there was that talk about, putting in that 5 minutes and then at 5 minutes going back. And I was just like,
yeah, nah, it's
like if he kind of got up on his own recognizance, I would have been like, all right.
Oh, yeah, let's get it. You know what I'm saying? Let's get it.
Like, we see that.
If you would have given the thumbs up,
Like, you get the thumbs up, he's walking off the field. This man wasn't moving.
Man, I've never seen an ambulance come on the field. I've never.
I'm gonna be honest. I haven't never seen that
I've been watching football for a long time. It's usually always. I know you probably remember this. Remember when Earl Thomas got hurt? He messed up, and he gave the finger to Pete Carroll. Like, that's usually what happens, is they drive you off in that little caravan, and and the players touch you and all that stuff. Like, hey man, even when Dak went down, he was crying in his towel. They always bring that little vehicle out and they drive you off. I have never seen an ambulance vehicle come onto an NFL football field. That's the first time for that, and I hate that it was for that incident. But yeah, that was the first time I ever seen it.
So this is Monday Night Football.
National. Jesus.
So this is the only game that was going. And it's still, and I mean, I hate to talk about it in this context, but both of those teams are doing really well this season, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They're both playoff
so they're both, I mean, it's a very competitive game. People are trying to figure out what the playoff picture is going to look like, because we have the final couple of weeks of the year. And it's like all of this thing, and it's just interesting, because the NFL is not a social services organization.
It's a for-profit.
It's a for-profit business.
Yeah.
Right? And it's sports entertainment. It's football, but it's sports entertainment. And so there's all of these factors. But my big question is, we're seeing more injuries of this magnitude, and I don't know if it's just me. Maybe I'm off on this, Scotty, but is it me that I just seen more like serious injuries? I mean, we saw what happened with Tua. He suffered 3 concussions this season alone. The Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua.
Yeah,
he suffered 3 big concussions. I ain't talking about just like, whoa, he was gone.
Yeah,
3, and it's like I've seen people say, take dude out.
Yeah, he needs to be. They're talking about retiring. They're talking about he needs to retire.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, when we see that, there was a meme that was kind of going around, and they were saying, like, in this particular space, in this stadium, and I don't know how factual it is, so I'm bringing it to you. They said that in this space, this stadium, They identified 4 major injuries to football, to the players in this one. Where was the Cincinnati that they played yesterday?
I believe it was I think it was in Cincinnati.
Okay, the Cincinnati stadium. They said Tua got hurt there. Then we got Damar Hamlin, and you had 2 other incidents with 2 other players this year alone that was seriously hurt in the stadium. And it brings me to say, damn, was the place cursed? I mean, what is this about?
A lot of players are trying to go away from turf fields. I don't know if Cincinnati is a turf field. I'm just speaking in the totality of
general. Right.
We're trying to get away from the turf field, more natural grass and things like this. Listen,
is that good? And before we move on, what's the difference from the vantage point? What's the pros and cons of that?
From the understanding of turf, there is no give. Right, it's usually like the old Eagles stadium where Michael Irvin messed up his neck at. Like that was like concrete with like fake grass and like that's it. Now with the new turf, they kind of have a softer form to it, but they said there is no give. So like if your cleats get stuck, right, with mud or grass, it just slips out. Well, in turf, it digs and it sticks. So if you go one way and your cleat gets stuck, that's why you see a lot of torn ACLs because the turf has no give. Right. So that's why a lot of NFL players are trying to get away from turf fields because they feel like grass is a better option, but grass is more maintenance, right? The Chicago field, the Lambeau fields, like those are a lot of maintenance to keep that stuff up. Even if the Arizona, I don't know if you've seen Arizona, their field is allowed to come outside to get sunlight and then they move it back in. It's super dope, but it's just all the maintenance that comes with that. So that's a whole nother thing in itself. But listen, I look at it like this. There's only so much, right? It's like this. How safe can you truly make a car accident, right? Like you get all it's still a car accident. It's still a collision. It's still a forcible event that you cannot understand all the variables that, even though you try to protect it at all levels, right? Some people live, some people pass away, some people have detriment injuries. That's the same thing with football, right? It doesn't matter how safe you try to make it. The basis of the sport is a collision. It just is what it is. You can make unless you wrap everybody in bubble wrap and just say, we just touching everybody or a laser tag or whatever. If it's a collision sport, there's always going to be a level of violence and injury that comes with that sport. So there's just things that you're going to have to understand that comes with the game. Even if it doesn't affect you when you're playing, it could affect you after you're playing.
That's a great point, bro.
It is a collision sport at the end of the day.
That's a big point, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, I'm serious. I mean, you're absolutely right. I love the analogy about the car accident because that's exactly it. I mean, we got seatbelts, we got more equipped cars, we got more, safer cars nowadays. But once you get into an accident, like no car is accident proof.
You see what I'm saying? It don't matter how much you try to,
especially if you hit a car in a vulnerable zone.
Absolutely.
When you look at the inside of cars, for example, it's a metal frame surrounded by plastic.
Absolutely.
So you're making a valid point on that, and I we got to take a quick pause, but I think I want to explore that with you a little bit more and get some take from our culture crew, because I'm wondering, when we see these type of injuries and this type of unfortunate circumstances, like how do we have a conversation about heart health? Thinking about, making sure that the hits on the field aren't as crazy as they might be. Like, because we got to have a conversation with the next generation of football players, right?
That's fair. You got to.
Know what I'm saying? Like these young boys, especially black boys, who we shuttle into.
We feed that system.
You know what I mean? We take our sons. He wanted to play football, and I'm hearing, Scotty, and you can definitely correct me if I'm wrong. I'm hearing that even on like the Pee Wee level, and you get into like the school level, that they start experiencing some very, they got to change their rules because they're finding out some of these boys are just hitting each other so hard that their bodies, by the time they get to the high school or college level, they can't even perform well.
Yeah, I've talking to old heads that have played and coached this game. A lot of them won't even let their sons play until middle school. Like 8th grade, 9th grade, because their bodies are just a little bit more like they'll let you play flag. Because they let you play flag to get the understanding of the game, how the game is played, the positions and things like that. But the physical contact, they won't let their sons play because they're like, hey, I want my son to be physically capable of taking a hit. And I want him to understand the dynamics of protecting himself and how, because when you're telling a 5 or 6 or 7 or 8-year-old, they don't really understand that concept. They're just out there running. And then you got a kid who is just big for his age and he hits your son the wrong way. And you're like, it goes bad. So I kind of understand why people are getting away from having their kids in football so early, because those are just accumulating hits over time that your body is just either going to get used to or it's going to break down. So it's a tough
man, we got to continue that conversation. Folks, stay with us. We checking in with my guy, Scotty, our sports contributor here on The Culture. He's the host of Off Script TV on IG. And we want to hear what you got to say. Join us in the chat right now. Post your comments and stay tuned. We got a lot more to cover as we talk about the unfortunate circumstance of Damar Hamlin and the cost of football. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been having a conversation talking about Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin, who suffered from a cardiac arrest yesterday while playing Monday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals last night. And it created a shockwave of fear and scared the heck out of so many people as Damar got up from a tackle, walked a couple of steps, and then his body collapsed. He is still in the hospital in Cincinnati where he is deemed to be in critical condition, and prayers have been, well wishes have been given, and good vibes and energy has certainly been put out there for him to come out of this situation healthy and whole. We've been checking in with Scotty, sports contributor here on The Culture, who serves as the host of Off Script TV, to get his take on this as we have the conversation about Damar Hamlin and the cost of football. Scotty, you brought up this point. You were speaking to this point about the next generation going into the playing football at an early age, and how you say you've spoken to coaches and people who have been around football, who've been in the game for years, who have essentially said, "Oh no, I'm not putting my son into this thing until their bodies are prepared for the hits, their minds are prepared for the hits, until there's, even more safety precautions that people might take. So this kind of really starts to disrupt what we as Black men have been kind of taught ever since we were born, that if you want to make it out of the hood, either you play sports, i.e. football or basketball, right? To make it out of the hood. Do we need to stop that pipeline? Because we talk about that shuttling from Pee Wee League all the way to the NFL. Do we need to really disrupt this pipeline at this point?
I mean, some things are just, I think some things are just so ingrained in the culture that it's hard to make such a drastic shift to be like, oh, get away or go away or oppose, right? Especially when you have, fathers who's played like me. I've played the game. I played in college. So do I want to see my sons play? Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just something you want to pass on. You want to see that from your son or maybe your mom is into, like, my mom was a Cowboys fan. So when I was able to get into football, my mom pushed me right into it. So it's one of those type of things that go on in our culture and in other cultures as well. But I think we as Black people should start looking into other sports as well, because we dominate everything we touch, right? So if it's not Serena winning, Serena and Venus, if it's not Tiger in golf, if it's not PK Subban in hockey, like, when we go into other lanes, we do very well. So I would tell, like, look at soccer, look at baseball, look at golf. And I know golf is very expensive to play, but, look at these other sports. But I know an old man told me, he said, Scotty, the reason that Black people love these sports is because they're the cheapest to play, right? It's not, I know a lot of people are like, oh, AAU basketball. What I'm telling you, it's not hard to start, right? You throw it. Your friend got a football. I got a football. Everybody has a football, or, somebody with a basketball, and you can just go by yourself and you can shoot at the hoop all day long. There's not much to start that. But when you're playing baseball, you need somebody, right? When you're playing tennis, you got to learn how to hit the ball the correct way. Like, there's certain techniques and things that go to these, like golf. Golf is not a sport you can just pick up and try to do by yourself. There needs coaching and teaching. So it's going to be a hard, drastic change for people who come from low incomes to try to get into another avenue, because let's be mindful. I talk to athletes all day on my channel, and a lot of them don't come from, middle class or rich areas. They come from low income, so they don't have a lot of options. It was a coach that saw their size and their speed, was like, hey, why don't you come play football? I'll take you to practice. It's all those avenues and variables that are added into our situations, where sometimes football is not what we want to do, but it's something that got us out of what we were, right? So even if that's a college education, you don't go pro, that was free. I had to put my body on the line for it, but I got what I got from it. So it's just, man,
great point, bro.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, the only way to make this thing relevant is, I love what NIL has done, but I really believe that these Power 5 colleges should start having insurance policies for these kids, right? And the NFL needs to have a darn good insurance policy and retirement plan for these NFL players, and how they're getting reimbursed for putting their bodies on the line. Because I want everybody out here that's listening to Farajii's program, listen, these schools are built off of Black bodies. Listen to what I'm saying. They're not built off your intellect, right? Yeah, you can play. You're smart enough to play the game, but you put your body on the line. All those times you go watch University of Alabama, University of Florida, TCU, whatever school you like to watch, that is a Black body getting put on the line for an institution that turns around and gives you a piece of paper and says, congratulations and thank you. We done made billions off of you, and we give you a degree to go live your life, and don't know the repercussions after I put my body on the line for you for 4 or 5 years. So it needs to be more put in place.
Hey, Scotty, you you hit the nail on the head, brother.
It's a lot, man.
And I'm happy that you did, brother, because at the end of the day, that's exactly what we need to keep in mind. That even taking just a genuine love for something, for a sport, how it can be used against us in some ways.
Absolutely.
That's what we're dealing with nowadays in America. You take something that you love, you distort it and exploit it to the point where it becomes unrecognizable. Your body becomes property of that school or property of the league, right? And look, why not pay you millions of dollars?
Why? Like, think about this, Farajii, and I'm gonna give it to you both ways, and I'm gonna kind of go forward. If you look at the Coppin State situation, and I don't know if anybody out there has known about what's going on in Coppin State. Coppin State has an issue where a former student, a black student, is suing the institution for harassment and all that type of stuff because it's a real funny situation going on. But he didn't feel comfortable going to the people of the administration because he was scared to lose his scholarship. His body he is doing sexual favors for a coach. So he wouldn't lose his scholarship. So he felt his value was only worth the piece of paper that they were giving him, right? So now you go forward and and the schools have made this, they have pushed this agenda that, that's why they didn't want to play players. We're giving you a free scholarship. We're giving you free this. We're giving you a free that. It's no amount of paper that can make you lose your back, that can mess your knee up, that can mess your hand, your head, your mind. There's no amount of piece of paper value that can make you change the way you live your life for the rest of your life. Not all people have the benefit to come into a situation and leave the way they came. That's not everybody's testimony. The kid from Georgia who got paralyzed from the waist down after a football injury. It might be rare, but it happened. So let's go to let's do something to make that obsolete, right? So let's get something put in place. Let's get insurance policies. Let's get a pool of money that if you can sign a $5 billion deal or $1 billion deal for conference and media rights, you telling me you can't put $100 million of that for an insurance policy for a pool of players? So if they need medical in their history, or if they got to go get medical checkups or, medical procedures done and things like that, it's all those little things that need to be put in place for athletes. And I know they'll be like, well, what about the soccer player? What about the swimmer? What about all that? I'm not saying they don't deserve it, but let's really be honest. What is really building college athletics? And it's football and basketball. Those are the two entities that are building college athletics. So I'm not saying that the sports don't matter. I'm just saying majority of that should go to the people really putting their bodies on the line for for their institutions.
I mean, swimmers don't have full contact. And when you're swimming, you don't have somebody running you a 4.2 in 3-4 seconds.
I didn't say that. Farajii said that.
You're damn right I'm saying that, man. You can't compare the two sports. You can't compare them two sports. Michael Phelps is not beat up as Ray Lewis was.
Facts. All lives matter, though. I didn't say that. I'm
just saying. Let's keep it 100, brother. I mean, at the end of the day, what you have been saying throughout this whole conversation, Scotty, is absolutely on point. This goes to show us that our bodies, bro, like, we don't mean nothing.
For a piece of paper.
For a piece of paper, whether you're talking about degree or you're talking about that dollar.
For a piece of paper.
For a piece of paper. We're willing to sacrifice it all. And let me just tell you, y'all know it and I know it. Scotty, I know it. I know you know this. When your health goes down, there's no amount of money that you would not spend
to get it back. Come on, you preaching. You preaching on that.
I mean, seriously. Look, Scotty. I've had money, I lost money. I've had things, I've lost things.
Come on.
I can always get that stuff back. There are two things you can't get back. Your health and time.
Time and your health, man. You preaching.
So when you start, when that starts to be a compromise, when you start to lose out on health and time, you talking about like deep down inside, man, you start to get bitter resentment. I know you know a lot of brothers that are in that space who at the end of the day, they like, man, I love the sport, but damn, man, I gave up so much. I've sacrificed time away from my families. My relationships fell apart. You know, I got paid and I got these little perks and I was able to get into the spaces. But at the end of the day, because that's all temporary.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
But we also got to hold the players accountable, Farajii. Like, and this
That's
is
true.
You can't go into your negotiations only thinking about the dollar. And it's so frustrating because I'm like, they're letting you come to the table to negotiate, and all you're asking is like, can we get more money? Like, no, can we get more stuff put in place for our health? Well, listen, man, it needs the players dictate the NFL. The players should be having to negotiate and say, we should see more black people in management. We should see more black people in ownership. Like, those are negotiations that really change the landscape of the NFL. You want more representation of yourself because at the end of the day, you want to see yourself in higher places. Now, we all know all skin folk ain't kin folk. We get all that. But at the end of the day, you still want to see better representation because all you see are white owners with black people on the field funding their white dollars. Like, it's like, bro, like, this is ridiculous.
It's absolutely. All right, let me take a couple of my comments from our culture crew. Sandy, you checked in. You were referring to Damon, but you said there needs to be more discussions pertaining to heart health over them pushing products. I had heart attack 3 years ago, and the info I was given was murky at best upon a DC. So you got bad information. So heart health. Speaking of the infrastructure, speaking of creating a space that's for long-lasting performance, is there any conversation that you're hearing, Scotty, around heart health? I mean, we know that health and wellness, and you got trainers, you got all of these people, but I'm talking about if it comes out that Damar had a heart problem because of something he ate, or he could have been hereditary or something like that. But are these conversations happening behind closed doors in these team rooms?
I think that listen, this is going to sound really bad, but it's the truth. No team wants to get caught overlooking an issue. That's the biggest thing. It's not that they're just doing their due diligence because they care about the health of the players. They don't want you to say, oh, the Buffalo Bills or the Cincinnati Bengals should have known and they did not tell me. So now I have a civil lawsuit against you, i.e. Tua, right? Against that former doctor. Is that they don't want to be in a situation to where now it's like, oh, we should have done. That's why they do their due diligence. That's why they test you and they prick and prod these players so in-depthly, because they want to make sure that they cannot come back and say, the Bengals didn't see this. The Cowboys didn't see this. The Ravens didn't see this. Like, no. We did all the testing. We did all this, and he didn't have this condition. You know what I'm saying? So could it have developed over time? Who's to say? You know what I'm saying? But I really believe that the teams don't do it because they care for the players. It's just like, listen, we don't want to be in liability. And we know when it comes to money and liability, you try to get as far away as that as possible. You know what I'm saying? So
that's true. And that's true. And what kind of, like you say, you played the game. How much of it is on the players to take care of themselves outside of the regimen that's prescribed by the league?
Man, listen, football is a gladiator sport, and you don't want to come off as a weak gladiator. You don't want to, they always ask you, are you hurt or are you injured? They're two different. They're very different.
That's a great point. I didn't know that. So what's the difference, bro?
So if you're hurt, it's just like if you got a paper cut, like, oh, I'm hurt. If you're injured, I can't go. You see what I'm saying? That's anybody who's played football, they already know. A coach is going to ask you, are you hurt or are you injured? And if you hurt, get your butt out there and fight through it, right? Because everybody's hurt. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's dealing with something. So you don't want to come off as a weak gladiator, and you don't want to let your brothers down. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're that guy, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to let your guy down. You don't let your brother next to you down, because Football is the ultimate team sport, and you always want to be there for your guys. You know what I'm saying? The ones you go to war with, the ones you come in every day with, the ones you weightlift and run with, you want to be there, and you don't want to be the reason that you lost because of you.
That is so true. That is so true. And I think it contributes to a culture where a man who is really hurt, who really needs some medical attention.
Yeah.
Who needs to stop playing the game.
Farajii, think about this. How many stories have you heard about players getting hooked on pills?
Oh, brother, please. My favorite show on HBO was the show Ballers with The Rock. And if you've never seen that, it's a show where he comes out of professional football and he is popping pills like it's a child candy. You feel what I'm saying? He's popping them pills every day.
You know what I'm saying?
He's trying to figure out the next chapter of his life after football. But it was so true. It was so real. Like, it's funny. It had a comedic undertone to it. But at the end of the day, it's like these guys sacrifice so much. Their bodies. I've seen documentaries where guys can't even get out the bed because the legs are just torn up.
Yeah. I mean, it's no different. My time in the military, I got shot up with Toradol to go to do a field exercise, or, when I was doing my college stuff, taking naproxen or taking ibuprofen or taking a steroid shot, like whatever you got to do to get it done. When that's all when you've been trained in that, like, I gotta go, it doesn't, hey doc, how do I go? That's the question. It's not, how bad is it? It's, can I play? Give me whatever I can do to play. I'll deal with it later. You know what I'm saying? So now you have people who have bad knees, bad feet, bad hands, bad shoulder, because they never healed. They just coped it with whatever possible just to go out. So it's saving people from themselves. That's the biggest thing for when it comes to athletics, is saving people from themselves, because they don't want to come off as weak. And as an athlete, especially a football player, that's the last thing you want to be seen as.
Man, oh man, Scotty, you have just opened the door wide open, brother. I am so grateful that you were able to join us this afternoon, man, to give us some of this insight. And I'm glad, man, bro, anytime you come on here, you don't have to be unfiltered you don't have to be filtered. Be as unfiltered as possible.
I appreciate that.
And give us the real deal, because so many of our people, bro, they don't see the other side. They're not having these conversations that you're having. They just don't see the other side. And I think it's time for us to figure out what we could do with the skills, the talents of Black boys, and stop shuffling them through to just play the football at a young age. My son is 9 years old. He loves soccer. Son, stay in soccer. If he likes baseball, son, stay in baseball.
Listen,
when he asked me, he's like, Dad, you want me to play football? No, sir.
Listen, man. Listen, my family, my mom and my family, we're really logical, especially my mom. My mom is really logical. So I'm hoping to pass that down to my kids. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out a chart. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to put out the highest baseball player, and I'm going to put out the highest NFL player. I'm like, mathematically, which one looks better? You know what I'm saying? Like, because it is what it is. Like, let's be real. Like, you can play baseball to 42, 43, throwing a ball on the mound and get paid $200 million for throwing a baseball and catching it. Come on, man. Ain't no collision in that. You know what I'm saying? Other than getting hit by a baseball. But, that's why I ain't gonna lie. That's why I stopped playing baseball. I saw a kid get hit in the face. No, sir. That's not for me. And I went right over to football.
Scotty, you wild, bro.
Oh, I'm so serious, bro. So serious.
All right, look, I appreciate you. My man Scotty, check him out on Offscript TV on IG. You can find him on all social media platforms. He's always having those important sports conversations. And, of course, you can find him here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network. Scotty, thank you so much, bro. Truly,
thank you. Hey, man, and don't bring me back for no somber stuff, bro. I want to talk about urban stuff. I want to talk about rural stuff. You know what I'm saying? Don't be bringing me back for these, man, They
told me you were a sports contributor, so I was like, let me bring
Nah, I got you. Yeah.
Next time we talk about presidential political stuff.
No, that ain't me. Never mind.
My man Scotty. Appreciate you, brother. Happy New Year.
Problem, no problem. Happy New Year, bro.
All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about what Janet Jackson and Beyonce are doing to do their part to make sure that women are empowered on their next tour. We're going to bring back our Culture Crew member, Taylor Ferguson. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on the Culture, here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. In the final few minutes of today's show, I wanted to shine some light on what two very, very iconic Black artists are doing to be a part of making sure they're creating a safe space for women. I'm speaking of Janet Jackson and Beyonce, folks. Now, if you did not know, 2023 is gearing up to be a year where we're going to see some of our most talented artists hit the road. Now, the big concert that everybody is talking about, that are actually two, and I want to bring Taylor Ferguson, Culture Crew member, back into this. Two big concerts that everybody is talking about is Janet Jackson's new concert, All For You. She's going back on the road, Taylor. This has been years. And according to the Daily Mail, she will be reportedly setting in place what they call Me Too checks for various crew members. Take a look at this, folks. This is what Janet Jackson is doing. And then following suit will be Beyonce's. But according to the Daily Mail, the All For You singer Janet Jackson will reportedly be setting in place Me Too checks for various crew members on the tour In an effort to weed out any problematic people who could serve as a hindrance to a great show, the checks will allegedly be applied to all backup dancers, crew, bandmates, and general staff, and comes just after another iconic singer, namely Beyonce, revealed she'd be doing the same thing ahead of her Renaissance tour this summer. Me Too checks. Yeah, Janet Jackson don't want no problems. You don't want it, no problems with Janet Jackson and Beyonce.
Yep.
How big is this? How important is this, Taylor?
I feel like it's very important. I feel like you should know who you're going to be touring with, how those people are going to react around other people, and of course, how those people are going to make you look, because you are somebody who's going to be influential to a whole bunch of other people. So if you're hanging around the wrong crowd, what does that say about you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? In a case like this, it all comes back to like Janet or Beyonce, right? Like if something happens on their tour, they're not going to go to the person that may actually did the violation. Most people will be like, it's Janet's fault. Just by association, affiliation. I remember when, people brought Jay-Z into the whole Meg Thee Stallion, Tory Lanez conversation. Like, because his company works with her, with Meg's company, on representing her and being her manager and all of those things, that he is somehow responsible for what happened between Meg and Tory.
Okay. All right.
I've seen it. People, the father of Tory Lanez said Jay-Z should be ashamed of himself.
Okay. Well.
Right. So people will take a situation and place it at the doorstep of a major artist.
Yep.
And expecting that artist, and guess what? Like first and foremost, I think this is a phenomenal thing. And I think that we might see more of this, especially as artists go back on the road this year. That I think this is a great way to put it out there. Like, you're not, especially from two powerful Black women like Janet Jackson and Beyonce, you're not bringing none of that garbage.
Nope.
Not bringing none of that garbage.
Nope.
And I think it speaks volumes to the fans that these women are standing with the sisters that have unfortunately been violated by folks. So this was big. So I thought, I was like, you know what? We got to talk about this for the culture, man. Like, this is real big. Janet Jackson, Beyonce putting Me Too checks. I hope other artists follow suit, Taylor.
Now, my only thing with that is that I hope that it doesn't become a trend like the Travis Scott thing did. Like, during those concerts, or during that concert when people were passing out and, getting jumped on and everything like that, I remember celebrities afterwards being like, oh, well, get them water or do this because we don't want another Travis Scott thing, because they didn't want themselves to look bad. So I just hope that if celebrities do decide to do the same thing that they're doing it for the right cause and not just that they look bad.
That's good. That's a great point. That is a great point. Absolutely. I'm in full support of that. I hope that they're doing it for the right cause. And this is what I also would like to see male artists do the same thing.
Yes.
That would change the game.
It would. It would.
If here in LA, they like a couple of weeks ago, I think it was like the second week of December, Chris Brown, Trey Songz, Jeremiah, they had like this big concert here in LA. And it would be interesting if male artists decided to say, you know what, we're gonna have some Me Too checks, because I don't want no men disrespecting no women, or no women disrespecting no men.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So we can't act like men can't be victims of sexual harassment, sexual abuse, folks. It happens. That's one of the elements of that conversation that we don't talk about, that Black boys actually are just as much victimized by women as women are by men. So that's another part of the conversation. But I'm happy to see that. And I hope that it kind of spreads, like I said, to the industry, because enough is enough.
Chris Brown had a concert and you didn't tell me?
It's in Los Angeles, Taylor.
You still could have told me.
Chris Brown is a musical artist. He's always going to be performing somewhere.
I'll let you slide.
Would you have paid $1,000 to do his meet and greet?
I was thinking about it. I was at the concert though, but I didn't do it.
To the concert too, but I paid him $1,000 to just.
Yeah, they paid $1,000. Yeah.
To just smile at me and act like he know me.
It was a cute picture. They was taking cute pictures.
Man, you ever heard of Photoshop? Do you know that they got apps now that can move your lips without you even?
That's fine, but it's authentic. Anyway, Janet Jackson.
Wait a minute, I'm paying $1,000 to take a picture with you, making you richer, and giving me what? Oh, I had the experience.
Anyway, back to Janet Jackson.
I appreciate you, Taylor. I appreciate you. Hey, no, I appreciate you. We're going to see more of Taylor this year because we love what she's bringing to the conversation. And so, folks, make sure y'all continue to support us and to support new voices like Taylor Ferguson. But Taylor, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. And God willing, we look forward to reconnecting with you soon.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Big shout out to my guy Scotty for giving us his analysis. Great analysis. Definitely check it out again if you didn't hear the whole conversation. But it's so much that needs to be said about Damar Hamlin. Of course, our thoughts and prayers are going to him and his family, calling for his recovery, for him to come out of this place that he's in, and that he can be healed and made whole. Such a very unfortunate situation at the very beginning of the new year. And so, I really hope and pray that our brother pulls through. And, his mother was at the game yesterday. So I know it was very scary for her to see this situation happen. So let's continue to pray for the family of Damar Hamlin as he tries to get through this moment right now. But I want to say to you, all of us, that we're going to have a fantastic brand new year. I mentioned on February the 1st, we're going to be pulling up on our 1-year anniversary for the culture. So these next 30 days and into the first year, there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be covered. And so we definitely need your support. Also, we're going to keep our eyes, and tomorrow we're going to talk about this. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the new inductions into Congress. It's been reported that Kevin McCarthy did not get enough votes in the first round to be made Speaker of the House. And then on the other side, Hakeem Jeffries has made history being voted as Speaker of the House. So the Republicans are in disarray. The Democrats are moving forward with their agenda, and Donald Trump is still Donald Trump. Make sure y'all support us, though, here on the Black Star Network. Go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Do all that you can to support us financially. Share the content. Let your friends and family know. And download the app for free. Just go to blackstarnetwork.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at Black Star Network as well. And then while you're also there, make sure you follow me, The Real Farajii, on IG, and Farajii on Twitter. Love to connect with you and build with you and continue to build the community of the online culture crew. That's going to do it for me. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.